my name is Dom. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, I typically make bookish content, movie content, and anything else in between because I like to do whatever I want on this channel. And tonight is going to be movie content, TV show content, and concert content. For today's video, we're going to go over everything I watched in the month of April. So that includes movies and TV shows, and I'm including the one concert I went to. Since I sometimes include musicals in these, I figured I should also include concerts the rare times I go. I was looking at my calendar for the rest of the year. I have a bunch of musicals lined up, and I actually have at least one concert lined up for every month except for July. And I do love talking about the music I listen to. I always think it's so interesting and it says a lot about people. So without further ado, because there's a lot to talk about, let's jump right into the video. So the first movie I watched in the month of April was actually a rewatch, and that is The Omen. This is about a family who had just recently lost a child. So the father, who is into politics, adopts a child, but as he gets older, more messed up things are happening, and he realizes he adopted a child that is not so good. I haven't seen this movie since high school, but I remember really enjoying it. My dad actually sold me on this. And upon this rewatch, the story itself is not as gripping as I remember, but I was fully engaged throughout the entire movie. I wasn't scared. My dad did tell me back in the day a lot of people considered this scary, even he did. But even upon my first watch, and definitely this rewatch, this movie is not really that scary. It is kind of creepy, freaky in a sense, but still a very engaging story. I have to say the creepiest part of the movie is definitely the child. Creepy children in movies, man, always freaks me out, but this is one of the best child actors I have ever seen. So then we move on to the first movie of the month that is not a rewatch, and that is Damien Omen 2. This is a sequel to the first movie, and I have to say this movie is kind of forgettable just because it felt like scene by scene the same. I shouldn't say the same, but very similar to the first movie, just that Damien is older and knows what he is now. So I wasn't as engaged. I just watched it just to say I did, but it's okay, but it's on the lower end of okay, so I gave this 2.5 out of 5 stars. Then I watched Omen 3: The Final Conflict, and in this movie, Damien, who I actually did not tell you who that is, Damien is the child in the first movie. So in this one, he's not a child, he is an adult, and he is into politics, and he has a grand master plan. Quite frankly, this movie is even more forgettable than the sequel. It had an interesting idea. I really liked Damien's plan for what it was. However, it just had some melodramatic acting. But then at the same time, it seemed way too over the top, and as the movie went on, I found myself caring less. Funny enough though, the guy from Jurassic Park is in this. He plays Damien. I gave this 2.5 out of 5 stars. Now, the reason I was on an Omen kick is because I went to the theater to go see the prequel, The First Omen. This is about a nun who is starting her new journey at a church in Rome, and things are amiss. It's the very generic synopsis that other nunsploitation films have. However, it's like spoilers galore, so I can't say more. I went into this with low expectations. I'm finding like modern day prequel sequels, especially when the original movie came out like decades ago, they're not up to par. But I was actually pleasantly surprised by this. I wasn't scared per se, but it did definitely give me the same creep factor that I got from the original Omen. And it felt like a very engaging story that didn't feel generic despite the very generic synopsis. And I really liked how it tied in with the original story. And the main actress in this movie did a wonderful job. We better add her to the modern day Scream Queen list because she stole every scene she was in. Just fair warning if you're a mega fan of the original movie, this one does retcon a little bit. I shouldn't say a little bit, it's like a major plot change. In the original movie, Damien is the son of a literal jackal, whereas in this movie, the jackal's more of like figurative language. So that's a bit disappointing because I feel like being born from a literal jackal is creepier and actually scarier, not just creepier. But like, having said that, I was still able to enjoy this movie for what it was. And actually, I was able to enjoy this despite the movie theater experience I had with this movie. I walked into the theater and there was a row of children under the age of 10, and I was so confused. I genuinely thought I walked into the wrong auditorium, and I had to ask people if it was for The First Omen, and they went, yeah. And of course my assigned seat was next to these kids, but I couldn't sit anywhere else because I was actually in a fairly packed theater. And let me tell you, stop bringing your noisy kids to the theater, especially for a movie like this, because one of those kids was 3 and her parents let her run around and they were talking the entire time. There's also a scene in this movie that's extremely sexually explicit. The devil's hand comes out of a vagina, and no, I'm not joking, but it's seared into my brain because 1, it is what it sounds like. 2, a 3-year-old saw that. The kid next to me could not have been no more than 10. He said it's not scary, but at the same time, a child under 10 years old should not have been watching that. Also, halfway through the movie, a family walked in and spoke for the rest of the movie. They would not shut the fuck up. And me and the ladies next to me would just look at each other like, oh my god. And it was just also enraging because they kept questioning what was happening throughout the entire movie and how it didn't make sense. And it's like, well, yeah, because you walked in when it was already halfway over. Everything you're complaining about was well established in the first half of the movie. So, needless to say, stop bringing noisy kids to the theater and shut the fuck up when you're in a theater. I am saying, as someone who loves to make side commentary with my friends watching a movie, I do that when we're at someone's house. When I'm in a movie theater, my etiquette changes because I get it. Also, a surprising amount of people in my theater had no idea this was a prequel, so that was also an interesting conversation to eavesdrop on. The ladies next to me were so shocked to see Gregory Peck's photo, and they're like, how? He's dead. And I'm like, y'all never seen the original? Alright, well, but also that being said, I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. So I have several movie lists on my phone. I have Oscar Best Picture winner, I have Martin Scorsese movies, I have like just generic movies I've been collecting a list of, and every week I ask my phone, I'm not going to say the name because I don't want her to start speaking, I ask my phone, pick a number between 1 and 7. On this specific week, she gave me number 6, which is Vincent Price. I am trying to watch every movie that Vincent Price has been in, and I'm going in order from oldest to newest. So, that means my next movie is Service de Lux. Service de Lux. This is about a woman who runs a program where it's hired help. Men can hire this woman. I forgot what the name was. They all have the same name. But they essentially hire these women to pick their clothes, to pick what they're going to have to eat, to teach them something. And our main character, our lady, she wants a man who could just take care of himself. That man is played by Vincent Price. So yes, we get to see Vincent Price as a romantic lead. I only watched this for Vincent Price, and quite frankly, by the end of the movie, I did not find anything special about, like, it was cute, but nothing special. It got a few chuckles out of me, but it's like not memorable. Could have lived my whole life without it. 3 out of 5 stars. Also on that list, we have Wes Anderson, and again, I'm going from oldest to newest movie. So I watched Bottle Rocket. This is basically about a group of criminals trying to make money or something like that. I forgot what the actual plot was. This is not my favorite Wes Anderson film. It's not bad, but I just thought it was okay. It has this typical cheeky, dry humor, which I enjoyed, but do not expect his signature visual style in this. This is definitely before he had that figured out. And like I said, it was just okay. I feel like you can kind of tell everyone involved in this had no idea what they were doing or where the script was going. They were kind of just going with the motions. Take that as you will. I gave this 3.5 out of 5 stars. The next movie I watched, I went to the theaters for, and it's actually my only 5 out of 5 star of the month, and that is Spy X Family Code White. This is based on the original story of Spy X Family, which is about a fake family. Lloyd is a spy and convinces Yor to marry him and adopts a little girl named Anya. However, Yor doesn't know that he is a spy. Lloyd does not know that Yor is an assassin. Neither of them know that Anya is a telepath. Anya, being a telepath, knows everything about them, but she is only 5 and she actually acts like a 5-year-old. So she doesn't understand the gravity of what's going on, and shenanigans ensue. In this movie, our favorite fake family goes on vacation and Anya gets kidnapped. I have been a huge Spy X Family fan for a while. I watched the anime when it first premiered. I watched season 2 last year. I'm getting my years confused, and I am caught up in the manga, not caught up, but I am caught up in the manga like volume wise. I haven't read the extra chapters just yet, but I'm up until chapter 85. I love this story so much. I think they are so cute. I think Lloyd and Yor are ironically one of the best couples I've ever seen in fiction, which is so funny because they're fake. And I do enjoy, because I've seen a lot of anime and I always have issues with how children are portrayed, so I do enjoy the fact that Anya actually feels like a 5-year-old. And let me tell you, this movie is so fucking cute. I went with a small group of people to see this, and we had a packed theater, And this movie is extremely funny, and that must be a popular opinion, because not only did I laugh out loud multiple times, the two people I went with were laughing out loud, the whole theater was laughing out loud. And not only laughing, but there were a few people that were kind of doing that like scream shocked laughter, so you know something funny had to go down. It's a very exciting movie, very action-packed. The pace is kind of fast, but I thought it worked well for what the movie was trying to do. It's going to seem ridiculous, like a lot of things in this probably cannot happen in real life, but it's one of those stories where it's very easy to have a suspension of disbelief, and honestly the like outrageous shenanigans is what makes this what makes it funnier and more wholesome. This movie is not canon to the OG series. It was made more so as an advertisement for it. I was a little worried going into it, but I actually think they introduced everything very, very well. I was shocked that they were able to do that actually, because there's so many like spin-off movies nowadays where they really rely on you having seen the original content to understand like character development. But I thought they introduced everything really well in the beginning of the movie, and like how the character development develops throughout the film worked really well too. So you can easily watch this and understand what's going on without having seen the OG show. That being said, just a fair warning, they do have some flashbacks that are scenes from the OG story, but again, they are understandable without having seen the show. And a warning to already existing fans, the development in the show, where all the characters stand, is very like, if I'm to put like a time frame on this, it's very early in the OG story. So think of the characters from the first core of the first season, and that's where they're at mentally. I had a lot of fun with this, especially as a Spy X Family fan. It exceeded my expectations, and I could see this movie bringing in new fans. So again, I gave this 5 out of 5 stars, and I need Lloyd and Yor to kiss right now. Another week means asking my phone once again to pick out a list, and Martin Scorsese was picked, so I watched his first ever movie, Who's That Knocking on My Door? And this is about a guy who's kind of into some shady business, and he meets a woman and they fall in love. It is a romance of sorts, and I'm saying of sorts just because of the ending, so I'm hesitant to put that genre on this. And it's not my favorite movie, especially by him, and I have definitely seen better than this. However, this came out in the 1960s, and compared to other movies I've seen from that decade and just comparing it to his other films, the innovation's definitely there. I thought the framing and the cutscenes were original for its time, and quite frankly, seeing how he put the movie together was more fun to watch than the plot itself. I also think it's kind of funny that Martin Scorsese has been making movies about fucked up people and Italian Americans screaming at each other since the beginning. 3.5 out of 5 stars. I made my way to the movie theater again to see Abigail. This is about a group of criminals who kidnap a little girl, and something is amiss. This movie is a fun one. I don't have much more to say about the plot than that. It's really fun. It's not scary. I don't know if I would consider this a horror comedy, because some scenes definitely made me laugh and the horror elements are there, but I'm still hesitant to say it. And it's a fun one because of the little girl. She acted her ass off. The writing helps with this too, but her character was arguably the smartest person throughout this entire film, and her delivery was perfect, and it was so convincing. Unfortunately, a couple characters did kind of take me out of the film just because of how annoying they were to watch. The cop character, his whole shtick is that he's an asshole, and like it makes sense given the whole plot of the movie and seeing where everything goes, but the actor himself overacted so badly, it just took me out. I wasn't seeing a character. All I could see was a guy trying too hard. I also have to say, I think the trailer for this movie did it kind of dirty, because the plot twist of the film is in the trailer. So that also kind of took me out of the story, because I was waiting for some grand big reveal of something. But that already happened in the trailer. So if you've seen the trailer, you've been spoiled for the movie. But, you know, it was still a fun watch, so I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I went back to my list. One of the names on that list is Mamoru Hosoda. I don't remember what his name is, but it's the guy who did Belle that recently came out. And a lot of people compared that movie to Summer Wars. So, because I'm watching these movies from oldest to newest, The movie I watched by this guy was Summer Wars. This is about a high schooler who goes to a girl's home on the pretense that he is her boyfriend. He is faking it, and they are involved in this online world that gets taken over by AI. This was just a really fun movie that was surprisingly action-packed for what it was. Very fast-paced, and I was constantly on my toes. And I actually liked that the hinted romance wasn't a main part of the plot. It was just a dude trying to deal with someone's family shenanigans, which I thought was hilarious. They stressed him out a lot, and that was like the main humor of the movie. But also, the art style in this movie is insane. There are some amazing character designs because in this online world, you take on a persona. So one of these characters, his avatar is a rabbit dressed in like DJ clothes. And whoever put this movie together has an insane talent for attention to detail because there would be like thousands of characters on screen and every single one of them looks completely different, and just watching the world morph the way it did had its own style. The AI himself had an intricate style. Everywhere you look, there was something new, and I'm sure there's more to notice upon multiple rewatches. I gave this movie 4 out of 5 stars. The last movie I watched in the month of April was inspired by my coworker because we had a conversation about movie soundtracks and soundtracks that went hard. So I decided to rewatch Tarzan. This is about a boy named Tarzan who gets adopted by gorillas. I forgot how emotional this movie was, so I cried multiple times, especially in the beginning. I totally forgot how emotional that was and just how the music makes it more intricate. And one of my big takeaways from this film is that Disney used to show violence. What happened to that? Someone actually pointed that out on Twitter, and I haven't been unable to learn it. And this movie was used as an example because in the beginning of the movie, they literally zoom in on Tarzan's parents' bodies. And I feel like Disney doesn't dare to do that anymore. And what happened? Because like stuff like that is what made these movies so good. And the music in this. Phil Collins went so hard. He didn't have to go that hard, but he did. He did that for us, and that's what makes this movie so fun, because I was constantly jamming, I was dancing, I was singing along. I had so much fun with this movie. I also learned that Tarzan is apparently 18, and that just kind of threw me for a loop, because I have a hard time believing this man is 18 years old. I have 4 TV shows to talk about for April, and the first 2 I'm going to discuss are the ones that I've completed. The first one being Shogun. This takes place in 1600s Japan when Catholics were trying to colonize Japan, but then at the same time a group of regents were all trying to become shogunate. This specific story is a fictionalized version of a true story. Let me tell you, this is show of the year. I was hooked within the first 5 minutes and I was on the edge of my seat all the way to the end of the last episode. There's 10 episodes. Because first of all, my main takeaway from this story is that it's not about the big battle. So absolutely do not go into this expecting multiple battles because you will be severely disappointed because there's like maybe a few, but like the big one they show for like 2 seconds. So go in with the expectations that rather than being about battles, the show is just one 10-episode long chess game. The characterization in the show is insane. One of the main characters, Toranaga, he is one of the smartest characters I've come across in fiction in a very long time. He was constantly one step ahead of everyone. Even like the smallest things that you think are mistakes was actually part of his grand scheme. It's also one of those shows that manages to make asshole characters very compelling. There's one character named Yabushige who's introduced as a huge asshole. Within the first few minutes of his appearance, he's boiling someone alive. And yet by the end of episode 10, he's actually like one of my favorites from the show because he's just in a constant state of what the fuck is going on now. And then for certain characters, I really liked how their character development hinged on one another, specifically John and Mariko. Because part of John's development was that he had to learn and basically accept a new culture and kind of just work his way around it because he's from England, which was, as he learned, super different than Japanese culture. Then you have Mariko, who lives a very strict Japanese lifestyle with the occasional like Catholicism added into that, and she was I don't want to say a huge believer, but like she holds it near and dear to her heart, and a lot of her inspiration of breaking away and just as her character arc goes along is because of John. The way those two would banter with one another was really fun to watch, but then when they would come at each other's throats, that was also fun to watch. And when it comes to Mariko specifically, I really do love how her arc was handled. About halfway through the show, I figured out what her fate was going to be. It could have gone one or two ways. One, the way it did versus a very cliched route. And this show did not rely on cliches, so I was like, it's as much as I wanted it to go the cliched route, I knew it wasn't going to. But the route it did go, it was handled differently than what I thought would happen, and I'm really happy for that because the way it happened meant she was able to make her own choice. If I think about everyone in this show, her character development was my favorite. The attention to detail in the show is also insane, like when it comes to the clothing, and I was watching the behind the scenes of that to see how that was handled, and it was very true to its time. The actress who plays Mariko talks about like the layers they wear. Japanese culture, especially for the time, was like on a hierarchical system, and the more layers you wore, the higher you were. And you'll see Mariko with like 3 to 4 layers, whereas the heir's mother, I don't know if she's like technically a princess or a queen, but she had even more layers than Mariko did, signaling that difference. And then the Japanese they spoke in the show, because they don't speak like the modern Japanese. They spoke the Japanese that was spoken at the time. Little details like that, or can I use the word little, or are they big details? But details like that just shows me that the showrunners really truly loved the story and actually wanted to give us something exciting and new rather than all this like mediocre crap that's coming out on Netflix. And speaking of Netflix, because Netflix, especially that Avatar The Last Airbender live action show, Netflix shows love to beat us over the head. They love to spoon feed us. They love to info dump. They don't trust their audience anymore. So this show was such a refresher. It's just so nice to have a show that actually trusts its audience. We know things about characters because we're not told. We're shown. It's not like the Avatar live action, which is, I'm only using that as an example because it's one of the most recent newer shows I've seen. It's not like the Avatar live action where, you know, Aang told us he's goofy and then proceeded to act serious for the rest of the show. So it's like, where's that goofiness you were talking about? This show didn't need to tell us that John was smart. We knew he was smart because of the way he saved Rodriguez. We knew he was smart because of how he was handling the cannons. We knew he was practicing sword fighting because we saw in the beginning the way his hands were wobbly. By the end of the show, he had a decent grip on it. And it was also the words the characters would use. There was a lot of like subtle statements where they would say something, but at the same time you're like, ooh, because they just like let out like a huge bombshell basically. There's one scene in episode 6 with John, Mariko, and Kiku, I think her name was, where that like there only one word was changed in Mariko's translation, and I as an audience member knew exactly what Mariko was saying. She didn't have to look in the camera and be like, hey Dom, this is what I'm trying to say about John. I figured it out because of that one word change. Also, every actor in the show is a master at the subtle changes in facial expression. I don't know what it is because I see this in every show, but for some reason this show just worked better, where like a character would be doing something and then they just like look like that. At one point they're like this, and next second they're like this. But like this show just pulled it off, and like sometimes it gave me chills, sometimes I was holding my breath. And despite not having a lot of action, I was definitely holding my breath multiple times in the show. The tension in the show is palpable and I love it. This is definitely a great show that I highly recommend. I do want to kind of give a warning that about like 2/3 of the show, maybe just half, but about that, 50 to 60% of the show is in Japanese, so you will have to read subtitles, but don't let that deter you because it's still a very great show. 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10, what have you. And now, because I'm so interested in this topic, I do want to watch Martin Scorsese's Silence, which takes place in the same era. I read the book years ago, so that was another thing that was fun to do with this show. It was fun comparing what I was learning to what I learned reading Silence by Shusaku Endo. But it's just been so long since I've read that book that I want to watch the movie for a refresher. But like I said, show of the year, it better win a ton of Emmys. The next show I completed in April is I Am Not Okay With This. And this is about a girl who can make things move with her mind. And it's funny that I was just criticizing Netflix because this is a Netflix original and I actually did really like this show. I reacted to this TV show, so I don't really want to go into too much detail. I will say I do think it's an excellent depiction of depression because not only did it show what people often romanticize about it, but it did show the ugly side of it, which is being an asshole to people, having to go on an apology tour, the side of depression that people don't want to talk about. It also, because I was warned by people, they're like, you're going to be so pissed off at the ending, but I read the book, so I thought I was safe because at least I knew how the show would have ended. Right. But then I get to the end of the show and I learned that it deviated from the book, which like is a good thing because I didn't really like the ending to the book, and I was so curious to see where the show was gonna go from there. But I am just as pissed as everyone warned me I was gonna be. I cannot believe the show was canceled with a plot twist like that. So the next show I'm gonna talk about is a completed show, but I myself am still trying to get through it. I watched season 5 of Star Wars: The Clone Wars. This show takes place between episodes 2 and 3 of Star Wars, and it's about Anakin Skywalker and his Padawan Ahsoka going on adventures of the Clone Wars. I really love this season. It has my 2 favorite arcs throughout the whole show. I loved learning more about the younglings, and I wish I could be a youngling. I wish I had a lightsaber and could be a Jedi. But I love those characters so much that now I know Order 66 is going to be horrible to watch because I'm going to be so upset. And there's the arc where Ahsoka is leaving the Jedi Order. That wasn't a spoiler for me. I knew it was going to happen. I was just so distraught watching it happen because nothing could have prepared me for that. My heart really did hurt by the end. And I also read somewhere this is actually where the original show ended, and what a way to end that. But I'm excited to get to season 6 and 7 this month. Then the last TV show I watched in April is another completed show that I myself am still trying to get through, and that is Liberty's Kids. This show takes place during the American Revolution, and it's about 3 kids who are journalists for Ben Franklin going through the major events of the war. I went into detail with last month's movie review, so I'm not gonna do it this month because I have the same exact opinions. It's a very fun and educational show. Just if you're watching this as an adult, just be prepared that you are an adult watching a show aimed at 5-year-olds. So some of what they're saying is gonna be a little on the nose. I went to one concert in the month of April, and that was for a band called Teen Suicide, which I know, but still. And not only are they called Teen Suicide, but I saw them at a church, which I thought was definitely a choice. I was introduced to this band back in college by a roommate I no longer talk to, but like I still listen to the band they recommended to me, so hey, if you're out there watching this, hi, how you're doing? But despite the name, because when I first heard the name Teen Suicide, I was like, oh, this is gonna be like a heavy metal band. They're not. They are more so rock, but I listen to their music when I'm just chillaxing or I'm just vibing, or like if I'm trying to get like work done, I'll have them on in the background. But they had 2 openers. The first band was called Stay Inside, who I actually really enjoyed. They had like an emo punk vibe that I really used to love back in the day. This is definitely a band I would have seen at Warped Tour back in high school. Then the next band was Awake But Still in Bed. I don't even know how to describe their music. I was unfortunately not a fan of them. The lead vocalist had such a weird, like, belting screamo style. It was just so bizarre, and it's actually what made me just heavily dislike their music. I was unfortunately counting down the minutes to when they'd be done. But then Teen Suicide came on stage, and you know what? They're actually a super chill band. They were very conversational, so the venue was super small, so they could easily hear us. And it's funny because I didn't know they're from Philadelphia, but apparently they are. So some of their neighbors were at the show, and they would point out the neighbors. Like, I know one of them, they were talking about how they just got married, and then like the married guy like yelled him out, and I was standing right in front of the guy, and they had like some back and forth going on. So that was just really cool to see, because usually I see concerts in bigger venues, so these conversations are impossible. It just made the band feel more personal. And because they were performing in their hometown, they added songs to the set list because they said, oh, we're from Philly. The song is fitting. And the music was just really good. I was really vibing with it. Teen Suicide is not a band I listen to often. Like, actually, it's actually been a while since I chose to listen to them. But I still had a really good time. Like, I've been to concerts in the past where I didn't know a lot of songs, and it wasn't like as fun not being able to sing along, but this is definitely one of those exceptions. Like, I was okay, I knew most of the songs, but I was okay knowing like only 3/4 of them, and I was okay not knowing most of the lyrics because I was still, the band themselves still made the show really fun, so I caught myself like dancing along or head bobbing, participating in whatever they told us to do. Felt like I went to go see a cool like local band, and you can't even call them local anymore because they don't live in Philly anymore. Now they say they're from Orlando, Florida. Also, if you go on Spotify, they have almost like 900,000 listeners, so they're not small per se. Like, they're not performing at bars anymore, but like they just felt like the cool guy down the street. The funniest part of this concert, I will say, was this girl trying to mosh, and mind you, a very, very tiny church space. She was trying to start a mosh pit, and it was just so funny because no one was having it, so she was throwing herself at people with her eyes closed and trying to get in the groove, and like someone literally just grabbed her and pushed her to the side and told her to just stand there. But it was just so funny because I was like arguably one of the youngest there, and even I was like, girl, my knees, I can't do this. I had a lot more fun I was expecting to have. It was a really great night, and I actually did go through some concert withdrawal. Video. Let me know down below if you've seen any of these movies and shows, or if you've listened to this type of music. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up, comment, subscribe. Y'all know the drill. And without further ado, I'm gonna peace out and I'll see you guys later. Ciao tutti.